Hello, I'm Michael Kurland, CEO and co-founder of Branded Group, an award-winning facility maintenance and construction management company that services multi-site commercial properties such as retail, restaurants, healthcare facilities, and educational institutions. Welcome to the Be Better podcast. Each week, I interview thought leaders from a variety of industries who will share their stories and the lessons they learn as they strive to be better for their clients, partners, employees, and their community. Are you ready to be better? Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Be Better podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kurland. Joining me today, Kevin Monroe, and he is known as the Gratitude Guide. So Kevin, tell the audience a little bit more about yourself and why you're the Gratitude Guide, and then we can get into some gratitude stuff today.
All right. Well, Michael, I wasn't always known as the Gratitude Guy. You know, it was about this time last year, a little earlier, that a friend of mine contacted me and said, "Hey, Kevin, would you do a webinar for our leadership team?" And I'm like, "Sure. What would you want the topic to be on?" And they're like, "Duh, gratitude." And I started other people. Anytime I was asked to speak about something, they would say, "Come talk to us about gratitude. We think of you as the Gratitude Guy." And then it just kind of dawned on me. Gratitude was one of these things that, if we can talk of it like in the business language, Michael, it started as a side hustle for me. I mean, I was doing gratitude. You and I had this conversation before. We both locked onto gratitude at very low points in life.
That is correct.
And I did not lock onto gratitude to be a business facet, right? It was just something I was doing, and it was my path out of dark seasons of life. And then I just started talking more about that. And during the pandemic, I started leaning into gratitude more and more. So over the last 2.5 years, even before the pandemic, every meeting I started, I'd start by asking, what's something you're grateful for now? You know, and just started what I called grounding everything in gratitude. Let's ground it in gratitude, And just slowly, all of a sudden, people thought of me as the Gratitude Guy. And I just realized, you know, there are a lot of things much worse to be associated with your name in life than gratitude. Now, like, if that's it, I'll take it.
Hey, that's great. Like you said, there's a lot worse things than being known as the Gratitude Guy, right?
Yeah.
So you talked about, you know, you grabbed onto gratitude during a low point in your life. Are you willing to share your story? Let's talk about that.
You know, it's so funny because I dug this out. I have a journal right here. And so I can take you to my journal and give you the date. The dark day of this, that last, well, not the last time, but the dark day when gratitude really landed on me was almost a 3-year anniversary of when we're recording. It was April 17th, 2018. It was a morning where I struggled to get myself out of bed. Now, that may be different for some people. I'm a guy that's up by 4:35 every morning without an alarm clock. So that morning, it was 7:30 before I could get out of bed. But I couldn't get out of bed. There was no motivation. There was just, some of you listening, you know that feeling. Michael, you know that feeling. You and I have talked about it. Just, really? Is it morning? Is it another day? Do I have to try to muster energy and go do something? Now, here's the power of a morning routine. I came into my office, grabbed my journal, and sat down for my morning routine, but there was nothing there. And I just uttered a prayer. And I said, "Spirit, you're the source of creativity. Spark creativity in me." And I laid on the floor, and in all honesty, I was in that liminal space. I think I fell in and out of sleep, slumber, partially asleep, partially awake. 45 minutes later, I sat up, and there was this idea that was 85% fully formed. Launch a 90-day program, invite others to join me, because you know who needed the 90-day program most? Me. And we called it the Extraordinary Experiment. Could your ordinary life be a bit more extraordinary by doing simple things with focus and energy and intention? Now I call that focus, fervor, and flair. But then we just talked about, a little more focus, a little more energy. And right in the middle of those 13 weeks, so each of the 13 weeks, we picked a focus. So the very first week was just being aware of what's around you, who's around you, because most of us live unaware lives, right? We're in our own little world. We have no idea who's around us, what's going on in their world. And yet right in the middle of that, we had a gratitude week. And Michael, that was the first time in my adult life, and I'm 61, okay? I don't mind saying that. I'm 60. First time in my adult life, I'd lived 58 years before I ever pondered, is there a difference between being thankful and being grateful? And that's when it started for me.
Wow. So tell me more about this extraordinary journey that you started and this group that you brought together. How many people were involved, and what did you guys focus on?
So, Michael, I don't know. I am a blessed man in that I know a lot of people, and people extend extravagant generosity to me. So we launched a landing page in a day and a half, said, hey, we're starting in 2 weeks. And we had 274 people from 28 countries sign up to join us on this 90-day journey, 13 weeks. And so each of the 13 weeks, and it went a little progressively deeper, right? So the first week was just being the awareness challenge. The next week, I think we called it the noticing challenge. Just notice. Now you're aware, now notice. Then we invited people, hey, connect with those people you see. Reach out and actually talk to them. Get to know the security guard's name that you pass every single day, or the receptionist or the barista. Engage them in conversation, find out something about them, see them as a person. So it was all of these things. We had a week on kindness. We had a week on listening. We had a week on being curious, asking questions. And it was 13 weeks of that. And each week we started with, on Mondays, we laid out the experiment for that week and a challenge. On Wednesdays, we came back and we kind of gave a tip. Hey, how you doing? What about this? And then on Fridays, we paused and reflected. What happened this week? And I still, 3 years later, almost 3 years later, I still receive messages from people that were part of that saying, oh my gosh, it changed my life, right? Because we started living with intention. I mean, that's the bottom line. We started living with intention and stopped existing.
Stop going through the motions, right? That's
right.
That's what a lot of people do, is they get stuck in their mundane day-to-day routines that they don't see things to be grateful for, and then they forget how to live with intention. So I like what you're saying.
Then fast forward a year later, or a little more than a year later, June of 2019, I had this idea of hosting a gratitude challenge. I host a podcast. I had a guest coming on, and I'd been asking guests about what are you grateful for? And I had a guy coming on that had written a book about gratitude. And I call him up. I said, hey, Steve, I got a crazy idea. You want to host a gratitude challenge? He goes, sure. Michael, I thought he'd ask me all kind of questions like, well, what's a gratitude? How would we do? He said, sure. So we figured it out and we started hosting just 10-day challenges. We thought 10 days was long enough to get people hooked on gratitude, short enough time for people to complete the challenge and not feel like a failure. So we hosted our first 10-day gratitude challenge starting July 8th, 2019. We had 295 people join us. On day 2 of this, we had 100 because we ran it as a closed cohort. I never knew I'd run a second one. I just thought I'd host a challenge. On day 2, we had 100 people on a waiting list. And we're like, oh, I guess we should run another one. So we've now run 13 gratitude challenges, had over 2,500 people from 50 plus countries join us to explore, express, and experience gratitude. And it's just phenomenal.
Well, this is a great segue point for me, Kevin. So let's talk about these gratitude challenges. I believe you call them gratitude encounters. Is that right?
Well, now I have 3 different things we offer, Michael. It started as this gratitude challenge, which was just 10 days. We just a prompt a day. Then, this friend of mine, Tracy Fenton, she's the CEO and founder of World Blue. A year ago, March, she asked me would I do a webinar on gratitude. And I'm like, gosh, Tracy, I can't think of anything more boring than to do a webinar on gratitude. Let me come and be a talking head. You should be grateful, blah, blah, blah. I said, no. I said, but let me think about it. So 2 days later, I called her. I said, you know what? Let's do a gratitude encounter. She said, what's that? I said, it's an opportunity for people to explore, express, and experience gratitude. It's not for me to talk about it. So we designed this encounter. So I did it once, did it in August of last year, and it was phenomenal. September 10th last year, I was on my morning walk, and I can take you to the side street in the subdivision I live in, Woodstock, Georgia, where I had this question blaze through my mind. Of all of the things that energize and excite you, Kevin, what is the one thing that has the broadest appeal and the greatest impact? And Michael, instantly, I knew the answer to that question: gratitude. And so I decided I was going to double down and triple down on things I did with gratitude. And that day I decided I was going to start hosting gratitude encounters every single month. So and I host them, free service, first Tuesday of every month at 12 noon Eastern time. I host a gratitude encounter. Gosh, honestly, probably in a couple of weeks, I'm going to start doing it every single Tuesday because it's just been so phenomenal. But a gratitude encounter, we pull people together, and we just have 3 rounds where we express gratitude. And so we do things like different. So yesterday we had this one question. Monday, I had an epiphany on my morning walk, thinking, so the day you and I are recording is the week after Easter. I started thinking about hope, and I've known that hope grows in gratitude. But all of a sudden I started thinking on Monday that gratitude's a catalyst. Right? So a catalyst, in case you're listening, I had to look it up. I knew the word, but I wasn't sure. A catalyst is a substance that enables a chemical reaction to proceed at a usually faster rate or under different conditions than otherwise possible without being consumed in the process. So not only does kindness grow in does hope grow in gratitude, kindness grows in gratitude, compassion grows in gratitude, positivity grows in gratitude, abundance grows in gratitude, possibility grows in gratitude, right? And gratitude is not consumed in the process. Gratitude grows. So that was one of the rounds. What's growing in your gratitude? So we had 25 people yesterday from 7 or 8 countries around the world, about half from Europe, half from the US or North America. And we had one of the conversations was, what's growing in your gratitude? So that it's a gratitude encounter. Then in December, I had a friend said, you know what? This is a commercial service. I'm like, it is. So now I've started hosting gratitude encounters for companies, and we customize these for a company, and we bring their people together and we help them explore and express gratitude. For example, and I know this would be relevant for your company, Michael, have you and your team faced challenges over the last year?
I mean, obviously, whose team hasn't, right?
Who hasn't? So we talk about gratitude for a challenge you've navigated, and invite people to express gratitude for a challenge they've navigated. That can be in your personal life, your business life. Everybody's got one. Another one I've done with a lot of companies: gratitude for a value you've seen in action, in either the way the company makes decisions or the way you deal with your employees or your customers or clients. And I know, because I heard you in a conversation, when Jennifer asked, isn't it Jennifer?
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer said something about laying people off. You're like, no. We didn't lay people off. We furloughed people and we called them back. Why? That's a value you have, right? So what does that value look like in action? We did not fire people. We did not lay people off. We furloughed people. And those were the first people we brought back. Michael, that is, and your people would be grateful for that value, and they have seen it in action in your company.
Oh, Kevin, that's so much right there to unpack. Let's start with, and yes, thank you for that. Let's start with the word synonymous with gratitude, because I think that's one thing during this season that have really come up a lot. And you said it yourself, hope grows in gratitude. We had Jennifer Chevins on last show, and she was a hope she studied the psychology of hope. Oh, wow. And how it's synonymous with gratitude. And basically, hope gives you pathways that you can, to get to your goals. and then you have gratitude for reaching your goals for those pathways. So I totally, you just hit on something. I was actually just listening to the podcast earlier today because it had just gotten released. So
I got to listen to that one.
Yeah, it just came out today, so you're right on schedule. But yeah, I think that's the kind of the two main things through this season, and we're halfway through the season on gratitude that we've really found is there's a lot of synonymous words: happiness, hope, kindness, even forgiveness, all fit into this bigger bundle umbrella of gratitude. And the second thing I think that you would probably agree with is to do your gratitude and to get the most out of your gratitude practice, you have to have consistency, whatever that consistency would be. So I think that's a great segue for me to first jump into this is how do you personally practice? How does the gratitude guy personally practice gratitude, and how often do you do it?
Okay. So fortunately, I grabbed my journal, another journal. I'm a journaler. Some years ago, I don't even remember when, but I started a journal and I started listing at least. So my morning, I start pulling out a journal and writing down at least 3 things that I'm grateful for that day. And I don't have a hard and fast rule that I can't repeat, but I try to be different. I try to diversify, and I try to do what I call amp it up, right? So years ago, I had what I would consider a weak, lame, and anemic gratitude practice. I had a mentor that had said, before your feet hit the floor, think of 3 things. And I don't remember if he said to be grateful for or thankful for. But Michael, when I'm honest about it, my list was pathetic. You wake up, and I'm a morning person, but I'm still not always fully awake. I said, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my home. I'm grateful for my business or my job, if you have, right? And that was kind of, and so I maybe had 7 things that I just recycled through. So what are you grateful for today? My home, my family, but okay, well, let's go a little deeper. So today I'm grateful for my wife, Gwen. Today is Gwen's birthday. Next month,
happy birthday, Gwen.
Yeah. Next month we celebrate 40 years of marriage. I'm grateful for Gwen being a partner that supports me. There's a sign over here. In my darkest days 5 years ago, I walked in my office one day and there was this, she had written this sign, I believe in you. Right. So I'm grateful that my wife believes in me and supports me and this crazy work I do. But I write 3 things that I'm grateful for. And some days it's 5, 6, some days, but that's one thing I do. Another thing I do, and this is what we grew out of our gratitude practice. When I started hosting gratitude challenges, I wanted to do something different. So we've now created 52 cards, and the 52 cards are innovative and creative ways to attract or to approach gratitude. Like here's one that's the beauty of nature. And when we do gratitude challenges, and I do this, what's something about the beauty of nature that sparks gratitude in your life? So I live in the southeast part of the United States. It's spring. And when I'm on my walks in the morning, I look like this morning, looking at all the trees that are blossoming and flowers that are blooming. We have a Japanese maple out front that is just stunning in its color, right? So I pause to express gratitude for that. So we call this amping up your gratitude rather than just saying, hey, I'm grateful for my family. What about your family are you grateful for? Not just say thank you for the meal, but wow, that was an amazing dinner we had. I'll be remembering this dish for a long time. Those kind of things, take it a little deeper level. Another one is, so I have prompts on my phone. I'm a crazy kind of guy. And I mean, I was sitting at dinner with somebody one night and they said, how many? I have 42 prompts. Now they don't go off with any sound, but they're just these little prompts. And they prompt me. I look down and I see something and it prompts gratitude. It sparks gratitude. And just in that moment, I pause and express gratitude for something. Maybe I'm starting an afternoon work session. And I pause and I'm like, why am I grateful for this project? What is it about this client opportunity that I'm grateful for? Because can I say this? I used to bitch and moan about work sometimes. And I know this has never happened to you. Underbid a project, and now you're doing a project and you're losing money on the project. And all of a sudden we find ourselves moping and groaning and bitching and moaning about the project. I was doing that one day. I thought, well, what if I just stopped and said, you know what? Wow, I'm grateful that I have an opportunity to spend an afternoon with a group of leaders from around the world. It was Meals on Wheels. They're making a difference in the lives of seniors around the world, around the country, and I get to lead them in a session on abundance. Stop thinking about you underbid this and look at the good side, right? So when I started practicing gratitude for that, all of a sudden I'm excited rather than saying, gosh, you didn't price this project right. But those all kind of things like that, Michael.
I think I want to pause you here because I think you said it earlier, and you know we're talking about it a little more. I think it's important to kind of hone in on is when you do have a negative situation and you can see the positive and be, I've said it before on the show, be a victor instead of a victim.
Yep.
And you could have been a victim to your circumstance, you know, or I could have been a victim to my circumstances that led me to move out to California and start Branded Group. I could have stayed back in New York. I could have bitched and moaned about getting laid off and getting divorced, and I could have taken the next available job and stayed in my state of victim. And instead, I became a victor, and I really expressed gratitude about that. Now, I had a guy, Chris Shembra, on the show. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but yeah. So he came on, and we talked about the time that I went to his 747 club dinner in Los Angeles, and we talked about someone I was grateful for, and I said my ex-wife, because if she hadn't have done what she had done, I would have never moved to California, started Branded Group, and be where I am now. So I'm very thankful for some stuff in the past that is sort of negative. It's a lens. It's the lens, right?
It is. It's the lens.
Yeah, I think you'll agree with that.
The way I say it lately, I hear myself saying it helps us to find the good and the beautiful, even in situations that are not so good or not so beautiful, right? We can find something good in it because gratitude becomes that filter or that lens that we're now looking at this to find something good and beautiful in a situation.
I think all the other synonymous words with that also go into that lens. Are you going to be happy about something, or are you going to let it adversely negatively affect you? Are you going to have hope about a situation, or are you going to be defeated? So, you can look at all those things in different lights, but at the end of the day, when you are grounded, like you said, grounded in gratitude, you can really use that tool in your tool belt to help you pull yourself out of certain situations like you and I have both pulled ourselves out of in the past.
So, Michael, when you say that sparks a thought for me. Are you familiar with Viktor Frankl?
I am not.
Okay, he lived through Nazi imprisonment in a Nazi concentration camp. He was a Jew. He wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning, which is, a classic book, but he had this one point. And so for me, you listening, one of the keys to gratitude is pausing. And Viktor Frankl says there's always a moment between stimulus and response. So something bad happens. When that happens, there is a moment. It might be a micro moment, but in that moment, we can choose to push the pause button and say, how else can I see this situation? Or we can just bite the bait and get ticked off and, and go into a rant and think how bad this is and how horrible this is. But Viktor Frankl says we always have a choice, and there's always a moment between the stimulus and our response.
And I think you talk about something really, really great there. We always have a choice. We always have a choice. And I've thought long and hard about things that happen in your life. And so stimulus and a response, it's, the only thing that we can control in this world that I've come up with is your actions and your reactions. You can control your actions and you can control your reactions. So it's very similar with what you're saying. And you can choose to act a certain way, and you can choose to react a certain way to what way other people are dealing with you. You have no control over anything else on the outside world. So once
True.
you start grasping on that, you can be very grateful that you don't have a lot of control and you can only control yourself. So
Yeah.
That was a little bit of a tangent there, but so let's talk a little bit about COVID-19. I don't know how Georgia's handling the pandemic, but California is doing a very good job of getting the vaccine rolled out. They're actually just announced today that they'll be reopening full force on June 15th, which is super exciting for me because I'm getting married June 26th. So
congratulations.
Thank you. All the wedding guests just know California.
So they can come, right?
It's going to be open. It's going to be wide open, fully open. So anyway, what has COVID-19 taught you about being grateful? What have you learned from this whole thing?
So I'm going to pause a moment.
Take your time.
I'm going to answer this a couple of different ways. I'm going to answer it one way that's less personal. Then I'm going to go personal, Michael.
Sure.
As I said to you, I always start meetings with this question: what are you grateful for? So over the period of COVID-19 in hosting multiple meetings every week, there was one thing, and two things I always heard that hit the radar screen starting a little over a year ago. People were more grateful for their health and their family. Those were responses. And I also noticed during the pandemic time that when I would ask, what are you grateful for? People more often than not responded with a person's name. So I changed the question: who or what are you grateful for? So I just noticed we are more grateful. I remember about this time last year, one of the things I was most grateful for, and how many simple things we became grateful for because we lost so much. But about this time last year, one of the things that just gave me so much hope on a daily basis, there was one week I was on Zoom calls or telephone calls with people from around the world. Started on a Monday morning with a lady in San Francisco. We were doing a walk and talk. We were both out on our phones on a morning walk talking. The next day I'm on a call with a lady from Israel. The next day I'm on a call with my friend David St. Martin from the UK. The following day I was on a call with someone from Canada. Every one of those calls, I heard birds singing in the background, birds singing. And I thought, the birds didn't get a memo to stop singing like most people I know, right? People stopped singing. This time last year, people were depressed, miserable. People weren't singing. The birds didn't stop. The birds kept singing. So that was one. Then May or June last year, I'd have to look. Some stuff happened. We noticed something in our home. We've lived in this home we're in for almost 30 years, live in the southeast part of the United States. And one Sunday we saw something. It's like, what is that? And took a picture, found out we had termite damage. Right now, all of a sudden, and you probably know this from the work you do, it's like, oh, how bad can this be? How bad can this be? And Michael, there was a moment that I realized several years before I had let the termite bond lapse on the house. So now there's this kicking myself for a decision I made that seemed like a really poor decision, wondering what's going to happen, how bad are things going to be. And my colleague and friend, Christy Kern, sent me a quotation one day. Said, Kevin, I think you need this. It has become my favorite quotation on gratitude. It comes from Ann Voskamp. No amount of regret can change the past. No amount of anxiety can change the future. Any amount of gratitude changes the present.
I like that.
And Michael, so now every time I'm doing a session, I'm using Ann Voskamp's quote, no amount of, because every one of us, there are things that we could regret and we can beat ourselves up. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should have done that differently. And go into that rumination and just beat yourself senseless. Or there's this Right now, uncertainty still prevails in our world and in our countries and in our state. What's going to happen? What's the business environment going to be like? I'm wondering. Anxiety, anxiety, anxiety. No amount of anxiety is going to change anything in the future. No amount of regrets changing the past. Being grateful in the moment. Wow.
I think that's well said, and very apropos for, especially the current time that we're going through. And I really appreciate you sharing that quote with me and the audience.
So let me fast forward. Our termite damage was confined to one small room where the previous owners of the house had done something stupid, had not used enough crawl space, and it was a concrete walled area, and the termites were confined there. What we thought could have been tens of thousands of dollars ended up just being a few $1,000s because of the kindness of my brother-in-law, who's a builder, who said, hey, if you'll do the demo, I'll do the rebuild,
And who doesn't like doing demo? Swing a sledgehammer.
That's right.
Have some fun. Just make sure you shut the electricity off.
That's right.
So, well, Kevin, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate the time for you coming on. I think you've put a lot of good information out into the universe.
I hope so.
I'm grateful for that. If the audience wants to get a hold of you, how can they do so?
So, Michael, let me make it simple. +1 404-713-0713. Call, text, WhatsApp, reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn, Kevin Monroe, and just keep it simple.
Kevin, you're the first one to ever give out their personal phone number, but I appreciate that, and I'm grateful for you being the first one to do that. So, audience, give Kevin a call. He is a great conversationalist. Kevin, again, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And audience, until next time. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that today's episode inspired you to become a purpose-driven leader in your career or your community. There's no doubt that when we lead with purpose, we can change lives. If you enjoyed today's show, I'd be grateful if you would take a moment to rate us on your preferred listening platform. To learn more about Branded Group's Be Better experience and how we provide industry-leading, on-demand facility maintenance, construction management, and special project implementation, visit us at www.branded-group.com. Be sure to follow us on social media, and you can also reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. Until next time, be better.